That's certainly not the case. I think our government is a reflection of the people. I think you let the people off the hook a little too easily. The reason we have the people we have, it's they didn't get there by answering a want ad.
Well,
They got there because people voted for them and their policies and politicians, yes, tell people bullshit, but the main reason they tell them bullshit, because if they tell them the truth, they'll throw them out of the race.
okay, so what you need is somebody who doesn't mind being thrown out of the race. Somebody's got to tell the truth. And when you just said you think I let the people off the hook too much, and the way I see it, you let the government off the hook too much.
Bill Maher brought on Marianne Williamson onto his show Club Random with Bill Maher. And Bill had a couple of extremely woke takes that Marianne Williamson took exception to, and she absolutely annihilated him on multiple different topics, on multiple different woke takes that Bill Maher had. Of course, some of them being about Donald Trump and some of them being about Joe Biden, some of them being about government in general, and Bill got destroyed on all of them, and he even was left speechless and stunned a couple of times. Let's get into this clip, though, where Bill Maher gets absolutely annihilated by his base guest, Marianne Williamson, here on the Club Random podcast.
Part.
Talking to people. The American people are not the problem. The sclerotic political and media systems that suppress and thwart the will of the people is the problem. But when you actually just are out there talking to people, people would ask me, what was your experience last time? And it's even more so this time, that the system, the political media industrial complex, is even more corrupt than I feared, and the people are even more wonderful than I hoped.
I don't agree. And again, I'm glad you're here because we can be honest about this and say we appreciate each other for saying what we think our truth is. But I sort of understand why, as a politician, even if you didn't really believe that, you have to say that. You can't start.
No, I don't say things you have to say. I'm not running saying things.
So
I think we have different experiences, that's all.
I'm just saying, I don't think you can ever separate the people from this government that's thwarting the will, not in a country like this. Yes, of course, in behind the Iron Curtain, the will of the people was not what the East German government wanted. That's certainly not the case. I think our government is a reflection of the people. I think you let the people off the hook a little too easily. The reason we have the people we have, they didn't get there by answering a want ad.
Well,
they got there because people voted for them and their policies and politicians, yes, tell people bullshit, but the main reason they tell them bullshit, because if they tell them the truth, they'll throw them out of the race.
okay, so what you need is somebody who doesn't mind being thrown out of the race. Somebody's got to tell the truth. And when you just said you think I let the people off the hook too much, and the way I see it, you let the government off the hook too much. Because if you...
It's also BS what Bill Maher just said, because we got somebody who wasn't scared of telling the truth in many different ways. He wasn't the politician that everybody else is in the world of politics. And that's Donald Trump. And he came in and he shocked everyone and won in 2016 and then made a comeback in 2024 and won again. So everything that Bill Maher is saying is completely incorrect in that sense. And there's this, it's a complete nonsensical take that, the people are the problem for electing these people. It's not the people that are the problem. Yes, the people are the problem, but it's an illusion, right? If you've ever been in sales, right? If you've ever been in the sales world, you ever tried to sell cars or do door-to-door sales or any sort of sales, the main objective of the call or of the conversation, whatever, is to have the person who's on the other side of the conversation, the person who you are trying to sell to, come to the conclusion that you want them to come to, but come to that conclusion themselves, right? Not have you force the conclusion down their throat, but have them, by asking intelligent questions, have them come to that conclusion themselves. The American people have been tricked, such as Bill Maher, such as these other woke idiots out there, Whoopi Goldberg, Destiny, David Pakman, all these people, similar to Bill Maher. They think that they've come to these conclusions on their own. In reality, they've been brainwashed by so many different things, by mainstream media, by independent media, by the CDC. All these different people have brainwashed these people into thinking that they've come to these conclusions on their own. They haven't. If you come to every conclusion on Earth on your own, number one, you wouldn't align with the left very much. Number two, you probably wouldn't align with anyone 100%. And there's all these lefties that, like, if you disagree with them even 1 inch, if you step out of line even a little bit, they shun you from the group. You're not part of the club anymore. If all of these people are thinking the exact same way, I guarantee you, They did not come to these conclusions on their own. That does not happen. That's not natural. If everyone's coming to their own conclusions, they wouldn't all be thinking the same. That's not how it works. On the right wing, there's a ton of people who think differently, right? There's a lot of people who are super not pro-abortion, but they're lenient, they're lax on the abortion topic. And there's people like me who are like, nah, I'll ban abortion nationally. There's no reason for us to be killing babies. There's just no reason. There's a lot of different ways to think on the right? Middle East is another great example. I think, get the hell out of the Middle East. Why are you stealing tax dollars out of my pocket and just sending it overseas to Ukraine and the Middle East? And then there's people like Ben Shapiro that are like, no, more war, more war, more war. It's like, we're still both on the right. We completely disagree. There's not that happening on the left. That doesn't happen because everybody thinks the same way. And if you step out of line, you get shunned, you get kicked out.
You look at poll after poll, for instance, the majority of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, want universal health care. If you look at the polls, the majority of Americans, including Democrats and Republicans, want tuition-free college and tech school. If you look at the polls, the majority
of course they want free things. I want ice cream too.
No, those things aren't free. They are how your own tax dollars are
Marianne,
used.
Come on, what easier statement could you ever make in politics than people want? Yeah, they want. That's not where the rubber meets the road. Yes, they want free health care. What are they willing to sacrifice for it? Are they willing to, why don't we have good health care in this country? It's because they never really learned to tame the corporations.
Exactly,
right.
My point.
Okay, but who lets that happen?
The government,
the people.
The legislators who are doing more to serve the profit-making goals of their corporate
by the
sponsors.
People.
No, Bill, come on.
Somebody sends Ted Cruz to Washington.
Well, that's Texas, my home state, so I can say it. So, yes, but the obfuscation, Bill, and the suppression and the thwarting, and I know that. I'm running for office.
Yes. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
I'm in the belly of that beast right now, and I know how they manipulate narratives. Absolutely, the left as well. It seems to me that if you have any two Americans. You were talking about the indoctrination before. If you talk about any two Americans just having a conversation, we tend to kind of get down and get real and get authentic as much.
Like us now.
Yeah, you and I would do that.
We're doing it.
Right. Okay, but hold on. And that's one of the values of your programming always for years now. But hold on a moment. My point is that when it comes to our collective public political dialogue, we have been trained to go stupid. We've been trained to do exactly what you said. When it comes to our public conversation, we're indoctrinated and we think in terms of slogans and we think, and you see it on the left as well as the right. You see it right now with the Democratic Party. This codependent relationship with the DNC. They say Biden is the one. Can we have some independent thought here?
Right.
Can we have maybe some exposure to other candidates? But I think that what I find in my experience is that people hear that and are kind of yearning for a more meaningful public conversation. But there's a lot of obstruction to it. And the media chops the wood and carries the water for the political elite.
100%. You can't get more spot on than that. Like what Marianne just said. And that's why Bill Maher is in silence right now, because there's nothing that he can really say. And what she's also saying to Bill Maher about, Joe Biden being the nominee, Joe Biden being the candidate, the chosen one. It's like, it's the weirdest thing ever, because if you tried to attack Joe Biden for just being what it is, like, I hate saying this stuff. I do not like it. I feel bad saying it. The guy's an empty vessel of a human. He just is. He's so old. And like I always say, if we're lucky to live that long, we're all going to end up that way one day, unless we die before then. So I don't like making fun of him, because karma's, karma can be tough, but it's just the truth. And if you were to say that to anyone like Bill Maher or like Whoopi Goldberg or like Destiny, David Pakman, any of these people in 2023, they would defend him to their dying breath, right? They would defend him. And then all of a sudden, one day, I don't know who it is, maybe it's the Obamas, I don't know who it is, but they make the call and they say, hey, it's Kamala Harris now. No more Joe Biden. And then all of a sudden, everybody just flips and they're like, this is exactly what we needed. Joe Biden would have never beat Donald Trump. We needed Kamala Harris. All of a sudden, just like overnight, everybody, not just the politicians, but also Destiny and David Pakman and Bill Maher and Whoopi Goldberg and all these people overnight, all switch. That is the problem, right? So that illusion that these people are making these decisions on their own, that's the problem. Right? Because, I guess you could make the argument that it is the people, because their brains are so weak that they're able to be brainwashed like this. But at the end of the day, it's these politicians who are at fault, because they're all sold out to, lobbyists and corporate, whether it's weapons manufacturers, or they're all sold out to somebody. It could even be a foreign entity. There's a lot of people who are sold out to that certain country that Ben Shapiro loves so much over in the Middle East that I can't even mention it. And then there's people who are sold out to China and et cetera, So there's a lot going on. You can kind of make the argument that it's the people's fault for being so stupid, but Bill Maher's not even making it to that point, right? He's not getting there. That you can make that point if you go so far right that you're going left, right? But Bill Maher is just not even attempting to go that far. He's not even attempting to think that way. He's just saying, oh, it's not the politician's fault, it's the people's fault. Where I'm saying is, it's the politician, it's their fault so much because they brainwashed the people so much that I guess you could kind of blame the people for being so stupid because of how good of a job at brainwashing the politicians do to the people. I'm very curious to see what you guys say in the comments. Whose fault do you think it is? Do you think it's just simply the people's fault for electing these evil politicians, or do you think it's the politician and the corporate media and all these people for brainwashing the people into having this illusion that they're making their own decisions? I'm very curious to see what you guys say.
The mainstream media, absolutely.
All enabled by the people.
All enabled by those corporations, which are giving the money to the government.
Corporations are people. And
did you just say corporations are people?
Not in the
that's
legal.
Mitt Romney.
No, that's not in the legal sense. I mean, corporations are made up of people, and people benefit from corporations. And apparently, Americans are not that up in arms about corporations. Now, I agree.
I think it's starting to happen.
Corporations do have a stranglehold on this country. I've always said
and on our government.
Socialism is. I think it should always have been called capitalism plus. Do I think we should get rid of capitalism? Not at all. But there is some need for socialism because there are some things that should not be left to the private sector.
Exactly.
Healthcare being one of them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tuition-free college, childcare, paid family leave, guaranteed housing, guaranteed sick pay.
Well, no one has this much money, Marianne. It's so easy.
No, it's the same amount of money. When you were talking about the private sector does some things and the public sector should be. That's what you have in the hybrid economies of Scandinavia.
I'm talking about things like the news media, which would cost nothing. If that used to be a lost leader. In other words, they didn't expect to make a profit from it. So it wasn't about getting eyeballs.
That's
so the nightly news didn't have 2 minutes of real news and then a fucking bear in a hot tub.
That's the point, though. It's all become corporate conglomerates. A lot of that came from the Telecommunications Act in 1996. It's a bunch of media companies profit-making rather than educative.
But here are the things.
But we can't leave up the media to the government. I don't know if that's what they're going towards there. That's a horrible idea. That is the worst idea. I think we have the best media landscape that we can have right now. And not that I mean that everybody's telling the truth or anything like that. I'm just saying there is no perfect economy. Capitalism isn't perfect. Socialism is definitely not perfect, etc. And right now, while there's not free speech across the board on every platform, it's pretty close to it. The pendulum has swung to where there is a decent amount of free speech on these platforms. And we're now at the point where mainstream media, corporate media is dying out because of that. And people are able to pick and choose the independent media that they watch. And so, the cream is just going to rise to the top now. Whereas if media was controlled by the government, that would never be the case. We would just be at the mercy of whatever the government chooses to tell us. And 99.9% of the time, it's just going to be a lie. Unless there's an objective fact like, hey, it might rain tomorrow. Outside of that, they're just going to tell us, oh, no, there's nothing happening in the Middle East. We're not sending any money over there. It's, stuff like that. So we can't let that happen. I think the media and the way it is right now, the way it's set up right now is the best way to do it, in my opinion. But I think what Bill Maher was saying here about the people being at fault, I think that's a bit ridiculous. I don't know. I'm very curious to see what you guys say in the comments. I think Marianne Williamson absolutely cooked Bill Maher here on the Club Random podcast. Very curious to see what your opinion is in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole Bill Maher versus Marianne Williamson in the comments.